Hi, y'all. I'm Candace with Slusher Consulting. Today, I want to talk about surveyors, what they're looking for, what to expect when you're expecting a survey, specifically in Texas. I'm calling this Check Before the Checkers Come, because one of the biggest questions that I get is, am I doing it right? I don't know if I'm doing it right. There's all these rules to follow. There's all this paperwork. There's all these things that they want. What if I'm missing something? And that's a valid concern, because if you're missing something, it could be a problem. So just remember, if you're 100% unclear, if you just don't know what to do, all of those rules and regulations that the surveyors have to follow are listed in the HICSA standards in the Chapter 558 of the Texas Administrative Code. So if you're not sure about something, you can refer back to there. Now, that is legal jargon, not always terribly easy to read, but the bottom line is those are the rules they follow, so those are the rules you have to follow. And over and above that, they expect you to follow what your policies say. It's actually very important um, that you are following your policies and that your policies actually say what you do, both. So you should review your policies and procedures at least once a year as you're in operation to ensure that everything in there is still true. And if it's not, edit the policies to make them true or change what you're doing to fit your policies. But that does need to be looked at regularly, and the state will look at how often you review your policies when they do come. Okay? So first of all, within the first 6 months of when you get your license, you're going to be submitting a form called the Form 2020 2020 for survey readiness. And so you're going to fill out that form, ignore everything that doesn't make sense to you. And so if you don't do Medicare and it has a question about Medicare, just send it anyway. Also, where it asks for pre-survey, if you've done those 3 modules that you did when you uploaded your TULIP application, then the answer is yes, pre-survey is done. And so, actually, the answer has to be yes, because you can't get your license without having done the pre-survey, so it's kind of a redundant question. But fill that out, sign it, and find out who your regional manager is for the address where your license is. If you're licensed to cover the entire state of Texas, you could send it to all the regional managers. That might be overkill. At minimum, send it to the one for the region in which your licensed office is located. Okay? And so when you send that off, what you're telling the state is, I have my policy and procedures manual. I have 2 employee files because the administrator and alternate always have to have an employee file, and that needs to be done pretty much immediately upon licensure. And I have at least 1 client file. Therefore, I have what I need, and you can put me on the list. So they'll do that. They'll put you on the very long list of agencies to come see. Now, in Texas, PAS only agencies, if there's not an additional category like home health, then they're kind of low on the priority list because they don't see the clients, I guess, as vulnerable. It's non-medical care. So unless there are, a handful of self-reports or something that they really need to investigate, you're on the bottom of a very long list when you send that. So the rule is you have 6 months to send the 2020. Then they have 24 to 28 months to come and do the survey. So their goal is to get to you before you renew the first time. Now, I'm recording this in May of 2025, and the state's been pretty behind ever since COVID. They really lost a lot of staff and suffered and had a lot of turnover. So some agencies are even having to do their first renewal, and a couple even their second renewal before they've gotten their initial survey. And what's unnerving about that is, again, am I doing it right? I don't know, right? So again, all of that goes back to the state standards and your policies. And if your policies are more stringent than the standards, because the standards are minimum, if the policies are more stringent, they will hold you to that if it's over and above what the standard says. So when are they coming? Hopefully before you renew for the first time, but we don't really know, and your job is to just keep operating regardless, okay? Now, if you've had to renew and they haven't come yet, you will email licensing and say, my license is expired, and request a renewal in progress letter, so that if you have any contracts, you can send that letter to let the contractors know that your license is still good. And that is a letter the state has created to say, hey, it's our fault, we're running behind, but their license is not expired, they're still okay to operate per the state of Texas. So the renewal in progress letter might be important to you if you haven't gotten that yet. They come unannounced. So there is no schedule. They're not going to tell you that they are coming. And the absolute rule is they will show up. There should be a sign on your front door. You do not have to be in the office, manning those office the entire time. But their hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if your hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4, but they show up on Friday at 9 a.m., you still got to let them in. Okay, so having smaller office hours is great, but when the state comes, that doesn't matter. Their work time is, I think, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So when they show up, if you're not in the office, that's okay, because there's going to be a sign on your door that says, if we're not here, call this number to reach an administrator or a manager or whomever. They'll call that number. And then you have 2 hours from the time they call, not to the time you get the message, but from the time they call, you have 2 hours for either the administrator or the alternate administrator to be back into the office, to be available for your entrance interview, is what they call it, where they sit down and tell you, this is your licensing survey, this is what we want to see, this is how you get started. Okay? Now, what will they ask for? Everything, essentially, but they're going to start with, they want to see your policies and procedures manual. So if you've got that at the ready, printed and ready to go, you'll hand them that while you're able to gather everything else that they're requesting. Okay, they're going to want to see all of your QAPI activity, your emergency preparedness activity, your incidents, complaints, infections, client satisfaction. They're going to want a list of clients, current and 3 months, the last 3 months of discharge clients. They're going to want to see an employee list, a sample new hire packet, a sample admission packet, and samples of marketing materials. That's everything. So you give them the policy manual while you go and gather all that other stuff to give them. And of course, you just give them a place to work. If you offer them food or water, they can't accept it. They need a place to work, and they need to know where the bathroom is, and that's really it. That's all they'll accept from you. Now, once they've gone through everything, they may ask for anything that's missing. They usually give you an opportunity to produce that while they are there. So if you updated a policy and you didn't have it printed in the book yet, it's okay to go ahead and go back and print that and give it to them. Typically, they're pretty lenient on that because they'd rather not write you up just because something isn't where it belongs. That is a lot of work for them. So they do give you opportunities to produce what they're asking for while they're there with you. Typically, a survey for a new agency lasts 2 to 3 days. It could be longer. If they find problems, they'll dig further and be there longer. So the more organized you are ahead of time, the better. Now, once they've gotten everything you've asked for, then they're going to ask for, from that list of clients, they're going to choose specific clients, and they'll want to see the entire client file, and they'll tell you what they want. But that's everything they signed at admission, and all supervisory visits, and 3 months worth of timesheets, and 3 months worth of any narrative notes or significant events that have happened with your clients. Yeah, that's the majority of it. And then they're going to want also to see some specific caregivers. They will usually choose caregivers who have worked for those same clients because they're trying to put a picture or a story of each client together so that they can kind of make sense of that story. And then toward the end, or at least after the first or second day, then they will give you a list of people that they're going to go see. They do make home visits to your clients, and they'll give you that list at the end of the day so that you can call and prepare those clients or ask permission. Those clients have a right to say no, and you can go back and tell the surveyor they don't want to visit, or that person is not interviewable because of her dementia and there's no family around, or things like that. So they want that also to be easy, so you're welcome to work with them and give them some feedback. And then hopefully they exit, and when they exit, they'll give you any preliminary findings that they may have found, and still may sometimes give you an opportunity to produce something, not always, but usually. So the big deal is you need to get ready for your licensing survey as soon as possible, and you need to stay ready. So doing your QAPI twice a year, keeping up with your emergency preparedness, all of those things are very important, because if you're scrambling when the surveyor shows up, you are way behind, and they notice. They can tell when you don't have everything together, and that's not a good look. Now again, they can only give you a write-up for a rule that's been violated, but sometimes maybe not having a policy about a rule is an issue, and then not following that rule because you didn't have a policy about it is an issue. So just be mindful, those things could be a couple deep, right? If that makes sense. The last thing I want to state is that a site visit from TMHP or a managed care organization is not the same as a licensure survey. Okay, so if you have Medicaid contracts or MCO contracts, those organizations will come and do a site visit with your company just to ensure that you have everything you need for the first preliminary visit before they approve your contract. And then they will come back, I think it's every other year, and that's when they're going to want to see that you are billing and paying properly according to those contract rules. But that has nothing to do with licensure. Okay, licensure does not dictate how much you charge or what the payer source is or any of those things. They have all these other rules that you follow, the Texas Administrative Code. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you need help with the mock survey, please reach out. Go to my website, slusherconsulting.com, and book a call or send me a message, and maybe we can get something on the calendar to make sure that you are doing it right. Because most likely, and most of the time what I see is that agencies are doing everything they need to do for their clients, but they may not be documenting it. So take credit for your work. And if you need help to ensure that you're organized and just to feel better about it, reach out. We'd love to help you.